So, welcome to day 3 of the Facebook Live book tour. And today I have Elitsa Velikova. I'm just going to show you my book first to show you what it looks like, so you know what to look for in the shops or online. And I want to tell you that there's a chapter in here all about art therapy. I use it a lot, and I also use Elitsa's cards, her lovely cards. So my book has a chapter on art therapy, and cards are one of the things I talk about in my book. So what I'm hoping that Elitsa is going to do is to talk about how art therapy is used, how wonderfully useful it is with children, and the insight that it gives. And I'll let her introduce herself to you right now. Okay?
Judy, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm presently in Bulgaria, and it just feels so nice to be able to connect with people all over. And to be honest, to connect through art therapy is one of the most sincere ways for me, because art therapy is a way of expression that bypasses words and really shows feelings. That's why we want to use it also with children, because very often they're not explicitly verbal. Sometimes they can express themselves through play, and very often they just innately they have this capacity to draw. Any child until age 5 or 6 starts to draw first on themselves, then on the walls, of course, as every mom knows. And then it's just a way of expression that is so natural to us, to show how we feel, and also to make sense of the world around. So basically, using art therapy is a very good way for me to work with children and teens who were, on the other hand, just, very closed at these stages of their development, naturally so, because they're confused and they're dealing with so many topics and they're looking for so many answers. So art therapy gives us an alternative space where we can just enter into our imagination, and through that imagination, we create a reality for this 1 hour or half an hour that is as if reality. And this as if gives us a resource. So we enter into a role, or we enter into a story, or we create a story, or we create a dance, or we have images, and these images takes us to places. So this is basically one of the very big resources of art therapy. When I finished psychology, basically I didn't know how to work with children, because talking therapy not always can happen with certain ages or certain conditions with children and teens. So with drawing, you can always have a meeting point with a child and with a teen, because you often talk as if you're from third person. We use metaphors. We talk about somebody else. Let's say, make a story between a tiger and a rabbit. You have 2 characters, and you just create a dialogue. So we talk about the tiger and we talk about the rabbit, but through that metaphor, we're actually understanding a lot about who is the tiger, if there is a tiger, a bully, or somebody who is actually threatening me, or feeling like too much, or who is the rabbit, which part I'm more identified with. So this is just an example. Art therapy I use a lot also with children who just need to talk about their feelings, but they cannot, or they don't feel safe. So the best way is through getting into a role. And that's why today I wanted, and also we discussed with you, Judy, that this is a good example just to show how to use one of the prompts in the art therapy cards. They're very simple, these cards. I'm not going to talk much about them, but they just have about 22 different projects in them that you can do at home in any setting with your child, and many of them are not just for children. they're actually good for the child inside of us and for many adults as well. So the tasks are very wide range, but they aim to connect us with the body. They aim to connect us with our feelings and to develop the imagination of the child, and also to start to ask the right questions. One of the things about art therapy is that a parent should never analyze a painting, because the child is able to tell exactly what's happening and why it is happening in the painting, and not to be interpreted from anybody else but the child. And I'll tell you why: because the children have their own capacity and sensitivity. And if for you, pink might be a good color because you like it or it just feels good, for the child, pink might be associated with a pudding that doesn't taste well. And then pink is not a good color. So the interpretation will always go through the feeling, the experiences that the child had. And therefore, when we do art therapy with children, we always ask, tell me about this painting, or what is happening in this painting, or in this story, or in this drawing. So we let the child make sense of what they did. And also, it's very important that somehow we don't help them with the process, because the aesthetic result is not necessary. It is, of course, it's always pleasing. The children like to create something and then they are pleased with the result. But we don't interfere in their process of painting or drawing, because it is very important that their expression is natural. And we can always give suggestions of how to cope or overcome some difficulty, but actually we are not taking the initiative to interfere in their drawing. These are the important things that I think that we're somehow sometimes seduced to do in the work with children, to help them too much or to analyze them too much. But actually it is not necessary, and maybe even interferes with the process. So shall I show a little bit about this project?
Absolutely, yes. I'd love you to do that, please.
You think so? Okay. One of the strong things about art therapy is the connecting with the strong positive sides and resources. So I love every art prompt that involves resource-oriented exercises. And one of them that obviously both of us with Judy like is the draw yourself as a superhero. It looks like that, but of course this is just a suggestion, and doesn't have to be in any way related to the drawing of the child. The prompt that you give, and the children can be any age, but basically the modification for an older than 9-year-old child will be to create superhero or a hero connected to their age group, maybe like an image that they want to be in 5 years, or somebody that they're imagining to be after 10 years, like a superhero, but an image that they project in the future about themselves. For a younger child, is draw yourself as a superhero. And it's good if the child doesn't stick to the images that they know from the cartoons or from their favorite movies, because actually in this way they just use the ready-made scenario. You need to initiate a conversation with the child to create a character, and it can have elements of different characters that they love from the TV or whatever they're watching. But actually it's important that their character is theirs. Yeah. So imagine that you are a superhero and draw yourself as a superhero. So the child takes the time and creates a character. Now, the good thing about that is that once you have the drawing, you can now talk about the hero. The important thing would be also, in an expressive way, to actually enter into the role of that superhero. So when you enter, you become that superhero. And for a while, the child will express themselves with the strengths and every resource that they have as a superhero. So for the period of the play, they will feel empowered, they will connect with some strong sides, and they will actually feel it in their body. Of course, you need to partner them in creating a play and really entering into the role or the energy of that superhero. Once you have the drawing, it will be important to create a little dialogue with the child and ask if the superhero has a name, where does he live, what are his superpowers. And according to the superpowers, you can actually also understand what kind of thinking the child has. What do they need support for? It will actually show you a little bit about maybe why the child needs exactly this kind of superpower. For example, if they want to make themselves invisible, yeah. So we're thinking, why would the child want to make themselves invisible? Is there anything threatening? Is it too much focus on them or too much control? Or maybe there is a threat. So this is a coping mechanism. Yeah. So the superpowers might actually show you an area of the life of this child that might be problematic or give you clue about what needs to be addressed in the family setting, or if anything is happening there that might not be good for the child. At the same time, the superpowers means they do have that. With one child, we created also an armor. You can then go into more details and dress. So we created an armor with foil and like a helmet and a sword. So we used a lot of aluminum foil. And from that, it's very easy to create this kind of weapons. Yeah. And the child had some nightmares and started to put the helmet on, going to bed, and then having the sword next to him on the bed. And amazingly, of course, slowly, he started to feel more empowered. And eventually, of course, with additional work, but eventually the nightmare started to disappear. So this is just like a, through your imagination, you gain strength and you're empowered. The superpowers are also maybe flying. Many of the children like flying. So you can really literally go into that game and pretend that you have the amazing ability to fly. Where would you go? Which places would you like to visit? You go in the imagination, you stream freely, because this is the metaphor of flying. Why would the child want to fly? Because they want to be free, or they want to experience unbounded space, or they just want to be above everything. Yeah. So if we think metaphorically, it just means that the child needs to have space and freedom and to move freely. So we give them that possibility. You can allow them to occupy the whole space, maybe run around, or in your partner, of course, you need to create, to connect with your own superhero inside. So you create the legacy together. How does it sound so far?
That's amazing, Elitsa. I love all your questions, and I think really going with the flow, with their metaphor. What will they do? What will they see? What will happen when? And to tell the story, allow the child to create their everything in their own imagination. And I love the emphasis there on us keeping ourselves out of it. You know, I've had experience where maybe a mum has been sitting next to the child doing the drawing, and then she's pointed at, oh, you need to add this, or you haven't done that, or that's very good, or that's very pretty. And they're sort of rescuing, in a sense. They're encouraging and saying, what you're doing is doing well. But that isn't what this is about. This is really about their own expression. And so one of the things I wanted to say was the connection to clean language. You know, clean language is really important, and to simply say, tell me about. And I use a lot of emphasis on the colors as well. So that
Yeah.
green, tell me about, like you mentioned about the pink, tell
Yeah.
me about the green. What's the green? Tell
Yeah.
me more about the pink. Tell me about the yellow.
Yeah.
And also noticing how big it is on the page. Anything that's missing that you might think might be there. So tell me about this space. Is there anything that might be in this space? Or is there anything about the whatever? So using, I mean, obviously it's all explained in the book about using clean language, and also the colors. Say if there's, I have a lot of children at the moment who are struggling with sleep, confusion, worry. I mean, I'm sure it's the
Yeah.
same in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah, and
child's
this is
gonna
exactly why this exercise is good. One, just one more thing I wanted to add to the superhero. Um, there is a superhero. Why? Because there is somebody who needs to be saved or somebody who is suffering. So, one of the things we can also explore through this prompt is, who does this superhero defend? Or what are his superpowers designed for, or for whom he can use these superpowers? And from there we can learn more about the relationships that this child has, maybe with family members, because very often children want to make their parents happy, directly or indirectly. Their whole being wants to make them proud or happy or save them. So very often at this question, the children give answer that they want to save mommy, or they want to help with some things, even sometimes very practical things in the house. But very often they're saving somebody who is sick or who doesn't feel good. And from there, you can actually understand more about who is the child connected with on a deep level. You can design a suit, you can go in the details are important here. um, uh, and mostly, to be honest, drawing is part of the art therapy with children, but also enacting the drawing is very often uh, helps to crystallize the process, or to really support the feeling of what we are expressing. um, and whatever you said about looking at the drawing and the questions that you ask is very relevant. Um, the more you are objective or distance, you don't put yourself in it, you can ask yourself who, um, whatever you want to tell me about this story is okay, especially if the child is your child, you're not working with children who are, not your own. It's more easy, but when they're your own, it will be tricky not to become a therapist to them, because it's not the same, right? So it's just about gaining some information or being curious about learning from your child, but not so much about going in a therapeutic sitting with them. So play would be more therapeutic, actually.
The other thing I do when we've done the drawing and they've got their superhero is I connect it really with NLP anchoring. And so we might anchor something in their drawing, in their painting, that connects to that superhero. So say if the superhero is very brave, very confident, can put their hand up in class, their superhero can go up to somebody in the playground and talk to them, initiate a conversation, or feels good about themselves. Say if, going back to your example of the helmet and the sword, you can actually then use that to do an NLP anchoring exercise.
Great.
Where you sort of say, right, so let's imagine that you've got that sword and we've got that sort of in our hand, or just imagine the helmet, maybe that could be an anchor. And then we set up the anchor so that when they do this, they remember the sword, or when they do this, they remember the helmet, so that they then go away. Certainly as a coach, that's what I would want to give them, some tool to take away. They've done the exercise, they've explored all of these things, they've explored the story, the metaphor, and so on, but then they have a tool that they can take, so that next day at school, or next time they're playing with a friend, or they are going to bed and they want to feel like, I'm not going to I'm going to stay dry tonight, or something like that, or I'm going to put my hand up in class. They've got something that they can actually practically use that reminds them both of the exercise and of their own inner sort of strength, because obviously, one of the NLP presuppositions is if you've got it, if you spot it, you've got it. So that they already have those resources.
This is brilliant. I mean, actually, I saw from you how NLP can be combined with art therapy for children. And I think it's brilliant because it really works. First, they put it out. Second, they enact it. Third, they're actually bringing it back to them as a resource by anchoring it. So this is really a brilliant tool.
Thank you, Elitsa. So we're going to wind up now. Just let me give you one little shot of the book again. And if you'd like to enter the prize draw, could you leave your email address in the comments or direct message me? And Elitsa is going to put her contact details in the comments box as well, together perhaps with the link that you sent me to buy the cards, which look like this. And just let me show you, Elitsa has written this amazing book that's inside every box of cards. And for each exercise, it tells you exactly what you need, what the aim of the exercise is, and then what to watch out for, what to look for, and the specific questions. So, you're equipped. It's a brilliant resource. You're equipped for every single one of those prompts. You don't have to be thinking, what did she say, etc. You just can go through those little questions with your child, and there's lots of exercises or prompts in there. There's one called the feelings pie, which I love, which encourages children to actually think, what are the feelings I have? And sometimes we make like an ingredients cake, a feelings cake, how much of this do I want? How much of this? What do I want less of? What do I want more of? They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I just love them to bits. So thank you for listening, and thank you very much indeed, Elitsa. You've done amazing work, really amazing. It's life-changing, and it's I love what you've done. So thank you so much, and I'm sure everybody.
Thank you so much. I really love our collaboration, and good luck with the book because it's really amazing. I'm waiting my copy to come.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much, Elitsa, and goodbye, everybody.